plant leads with the Sacred Ground project.
Kit will be here to help. She is an expert.
My name is Omri. I'm at Grace Episcopal, Silver Spring.
George, I'm also from Grace Episcopal.
I'm Cecilia, and I'm with them. I'm Sophia, and I'm also with them.
Thank you. Grace Episcopal, you have a garden. Oh, oh, great.
Susan Lang, St. Columba's Episcopal Church.
Betsy Ricola, Pilgrim United Church of Christ.
All right. All right. You don't want to introduce yourself. That's fine.
My name is Kirsty, and I'm from St. James Episcopal Church, Potomac.
Wonderful.
Hello, my name's Quinn. I'm from Interfaith Power and Light.
Thank you.
My name's Matt. I'm from the Rainscapes program at DEP.
Darlene Robbins, also with DEP.
My name is Hartini Amir from IMAAM Center.
Wati Yorka from IMAAM.
Jaffer Yurka from IMAAM.
These are our hosts, our very, very good, gracious hosts.
And I'm Annabelle Caudry with the Chesapeake Bay Trust.
And
I am Allie Cohen with the National Wildlife Federation.
I'm Paul Modrell with Montgomery County Rainscapes, and I'll be doing a presentation in a moment.
Joelle Novi with Interfaith Power and Light.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you all for coming. You are all have been part of the Growing Joy cohort under Sacred Grounds, and hopefully, how many of you got free plants or led the group got free plants at your congregation this spring? All right, and how many of you attended the webinars on why to plant native plants? And then how to plant native plants? Okay. And so today is focused on helping put a garden on your congregations or at home. How many of you are here for at home? Oh, okay. All right. And how many of you are here for your congregation garden? Okay, great. Well, that's very helpful to know. So in your packet, I'm just going to run through the agenda quickly. It's actually in the wrong order somehow, some way. But I'm just grateful that it got printed at all because it was a little mishap with that. And it showed up Friday evening. Very grateful that it showed up with all the materials. So we are going, what we're going to talk about today is how to create, what are the main focus is we're going to help you start a design for your garden. We're going to help you think about the size, the location, the kinds of plants you want. And most importantly, Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection has 3 staff here, along with Kit Gage, who's, again, a native plant expert, to help you apply for funding through the Montgomery County Rainscapes program, which provides, Paul will walk through it, but a lot of funding as a rebate to put in a garden. And we're going to help you do this very low cost and hopefully mostly free. And I know I'm not supposed to say this, but soon we hope there'll even be a better way for congregations in September to do this. Potentially, they're exploring doing it without a rebate, so you could actually get the money up front, which we know is a barrier for congregations. So I just want to put that out there. It's not definite, but they're exploring that, and we'll hope to have more information. And we have here the Chesapeake Bay Trust. Annabelle Caudry is here, that she introduced herself, and she's going to also talk about some grants you can get, which again would be free funds to help do educational stuff and more gardening on your congregation grounds. So there's free trees. There's all kinds of, we live in a really rich area of information and opportunities for caring for creation, for native plant gardening. So we want to make sure you have all those opportunities and tools to take advantage of today. We're also going to have a tour of the IMAAM Center Garden. They've done 2 gardens that we've helped them do as part of Sacred Ground. So we're going to show you what they look like. One is the one in the sun and one under trees, what we call a Tree of Life garden. And then for those who wish to, at the end, it's going to end by 5, we're going to drive down to the Silver Spring United Methodist Church, which has in the back, separately, they've leased out some space to Swamp Rose Native Plant Nursery, and you can come and have a tour of their very small nursery. It's like the size of this room, and you can get a free plant. Now, this is optional. You don't have to do it. So if you want to just leave at 5, you leave. But those who want to come, they're going to show you what they have and talk a little bit. It's a wonderful local nursery, Montgomery County Nursery. So please consider joining us at that point. So the only other thing I want to say, Paul, I think I skipped over this. Paul will do an overview of the Rainscapes program and walk you through really all the details you need to both apply and think about putting in a garden. And so he'll be our main speaker. And so I'm going to turn it over to him for a minute. But the only other thing I want to say is thank you for coming. Sacred Grounds is a program of the National Wildlife Federation. We partner with Interfaith Power and Light, who helped us create the program. And we also partner with Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake. And we work with congregations. We've worked with all of you, so you should all know this, but we work with congregations to really care for creation on their property, on your property, and at your members' homes to help people and wildlife. These plants are super plants for the environment. They really help clean up pollution, make sure our waters are clean. They help reduce flooding, and they provide food for the birds, butterflies, and native bees. So they are really an amazing thing, and we can focus on recreating the natural world right where we live, work, play, learn, and worship. And we're really grateful that you are joining us in this journey. So thank you for coming today and caring for the earth and through the lens of your faith. We really appreciate that. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul, who's going to share a lot of information. And this is also grateful to the IMAAM Center, who at the last minute just offered us the opportunity to record this. So it's going to be recorded and it'll be posted on YouTube. So please take notes as you want, but it'll also be available later, which is great. And I forgot to say 2 more things. We have fruit in the back the IMAAM Center provided, and we're also going to give you some native plants and books to take home. Yeah. No, well, yes, we put the webinar, I think, on the National Wildlife Federation YouTube. This one, we just have to work out the logistics. Will go up on the, I think, IMAAM Center YouTube, but we can, hopefully, with their permission, we'll also put it on the National Wildlife Federation. We'll share the link. We'll share a lot of resources with you after. So, any more logistical questions? Okay. All right. Well, we're very, very grateful to Rainscapes, for Paul in particular, who put a lot of effort into planning this to go well and has a lot of resources he brought for you, which he'll share with you. So thank you to Paul.
All right, Naomi, and thank you for inviting Rainscapes into this process. Naomi's really spearheaded a lot of this effort to reach out to congregations in our county and actually in all the counties around. So we actually kind of depend on Naomi's energy and coordination. So thank you, Naomi. And I'd like to thank personally the IMAAM Center for giving us this opportunity. So, you maybe closer? Is that better? Okay. So did you hear any of the stuff that I just said? I was thanking Naomi for all of her hard work in this and working with Rainscapes and helping with actually leads. We try really hard to get out to the congregations throughout the county, and we've got a number. Hey, that sounds better. I can hear it now. Someone must have turned up the volume. Oh, thank you. You figured it out. Great. Well, I'm going to do this from the chair because I have to kind of click through, and it's kind of low. I don't want to be in the middle. So, yeah. So this presentation is just going to be sort of an overview of Rainscapes and what Montgomery County has to offer. Sort of the environmental community in terms of environmentally friendly landscaping. We have several programs. Rainscapes is one. I really like the Tree Montgomery program in terms of low-hanging fruit and biggest impact for the buck. Planting a native shade tree is probably the best thing you can do for the lowest cost, and it actually costs you nothing to enroll in that program. We have staff that will come out and take a look at your property and determine, what kinds of trees, and how many your property could actually take, and we'll do all the we'll cover all the costs of getting it installed. We used to do some maintenance afterwards, I think 1 or 2, maybe 3 years, but it's a little expensive. So once you get your free $500 tree, that's the value, $500 labor and everything that goes into it. It would be up to you to maintain the tree after that, but they do such a good job installing them that there's really very little maintenance required after that. Just make sure the deer cage is on, make sure it gets watered through the first year especially. The first summer is going to be tough for just about any plant you put in. So there's the Tree Montgomery program. There's the Rainscapes program, which is it's a rebate program. It's not a grant. Most of you are probably familiar with grants, and you get the money and then you go to work. This is a little different. It's a rebate. So you come up with a project, you install it, and you have to incur all the costs. And then you give us the receipts afterwards, and then we reimburse you. And we'll go into the amounts here in a minute. I've got that all covered in a slide, but there's also another program opportunity, the CBT grant. We actually fund it, but it's maintained by the Chesapeake Bay Trust. And that is an actual grant where they will award you some money and oftentimes much larger sums of money to get projects put in the ground. So let's get started with this presentation. It's basically the Rainscapes process in a nutshell. It's all the things that you need to kind of know about applying to the program and getting it through completion. So to start off, the mission statement of the Department of Environmental Protection is it works to enhance the quality of life in our community by protecting and improving Montgomery County's air, water, and land in a sustainable way while fostering smart growth and thriving economy. So DEP does it all in terms of the environment, waste collection, recycling, energy, as well as flood control, water quality, etc. Rainscapes is a program within DEP, and it focuses mainly on the water aspect. That's kind of the pass-fail for being approved for a rainscape. It has to collect storm water from an impervious surface. Now, water, I don't think is like the most important. I mean, if you think about everything, air is very important, soil is very important, habitat, species protection, all of that. And we do try to achieve all those things in Rainscapes, but really we're pretty focused on the clean water aspect, the collecting of stormwater, filtering it, slowing it down, infiltrating it into the soil before it flows off into our local creeks and Chesapeake Bay. The rebate maximums are for residential properties, $7,500 per parcel, and it's kind of a lifetime. If you apply for a rainscape and you install a $3,000 a project worth, approved for $3,000 in rebates, you'll still have, say, $4,500 left for future projects. For institutional properties, places of worship are institutional, you get up to $20,000 per parcel. Some are single parcel properties, but many places of worship are many, 3, 4, 5 parcels kind of together in the compound, and you can potentially get more than 20,000 in rebates, but it's sort of a case-by-case basis. We have to go by budget. So if you have 5 parcels, you won't necessarily, be approved for $100,000 worth of rebates. But there have been many cases where several parcels have been approved. All right, so to get started, Rainscapes, the process is pretty regimented. There are many steps, and it can seem kind of overwhelming at times, but it really is pretty smooth and sort of a logical process you kind of have to go through. You start by just visiting our website, tabbing through, clicking through, and reading all that you can to kind of understand the purpose of the program and what's required of you. Once you've determined that you're going to move forward with a project, you would apply. And it's a simple process. We're not going to go through the application itself. I thought about maybe doing that, but it's pretty straightforward once you get into it. And I wouldn't want to bore you guys with those kinds of application details. But once we do have your application in hand, we review it for eligibility at a sort of a broad overview, because not everywhere in Montgomery County is eligible for the rebate. There are 3 cities that opted out of the program and actually established their own. That's Gaithersburg, Tacoma Park, and Rockville. But that said, we actually have a lot of those city addresses, properties with those addresses that are eligible because they happen to be in the unincorporated parts of the county, just outside the incorporated city boundaries. So you might have a Gaithersburg address, but that doesn't mean you're ruled out. So unless you're like in the city center core, if you're kind of on the edges somewhere, don't be dissuaded. Go ahead and apply if you are interested. Once we've determined the eligibility, you'll be assigned to a planner. A planner will reach out to you, and we'll schedule a preliminary assessment. That's when we actually get into the details. We either will do it virtually, or in the case of an institution or large properties or complex properties, that's all personal. Sometimes that's a simpler property or project. We'll do it virtually. We'll have a meeting, discuss the ideas, the plans. We'll assess the property for suitability. Is it going to collect impervious runoff? Is it going to replace turf? And there's a few other things that we'll be looking for to make sure you'll be able to meet all of those requirements, check all the boxes to get that rebate. Then once we've done that, we've sent you our assessment report. It'll be up to you to come up with a plan. And you can do that yourself, or you can hire someone to help you design that plan. We can't do the planning for you. We can help coach you along, but that will actually have to come from you. We'll review that plan and make sure it meets the requirements. Once it's approved, you can get started. And then the last thing would be for you to contact us to do a final assessment and submit your receipts, sign a property owner agreement. And that just makes, it's a simple agreement stating that if, by accepting this rebate, you agree to maintain that project as a Rainscape. So we're going to go through those steps again, but one at a time. So kind of makes sense. So step 1, you visit the website, determine what you're going to do. We offer a lot of different types of projects: rain gardens, conservation landscapes, permeable pavement retrofits. That's another really popular one with congregations. There's a lot of parking and stormwater issues, and the permeable paving is a good solution to some of those. But we're not going to talk about that today because we're talking about gardens. There's other things, pavement removal, water harvesting, green roofs, but we're going to stick to the two that are circled here. One is rain gardens, and rain gardens are basically just basins that you create that will capture that stormwater, hold it temporarily, sink it in before it runs off, hopefully. But if it's too much water, is safely discharged on the other side or wherever you decide to make that exit point. And yeah, it's a sort of a it's a more intensive process to put in a rain garden. It's a little bit different than a regular landscaping. Digging that basin, you have to go down 12 inches. 12 inches doesn't sound like a lot, but it's more than the depth of a shovel blade. And if you get your shovel down, that deep, and you begin to realize wow, this is a lot of work. So the rebate for the rain gardens is $10 per square foot because it is so labor intensive and more expensive to install if you're going to pay someone to do it. Here are some examples of what rain gardens look like, and they can take on a lot of different forms. Typically, they look like the little ovals or little bowls, the dishes that you see like on the upper right corner. But they can take on a lot of different forms. I think the Sligo Creek neighborhood has that neighborhood project, and a lot of these street detention basins they're rain gardens along the sidewalk. They take water in from, you can see the curb there, curb cut, takes water off the street, temporarily ponds it before being discharged. In the bottom left, you can see there's sort of a grassy open space with lots of little islands. There's a chain of rain gardens that kind of go off into the distance. One fills up and then it overflows into the next and then into the next. Do we have anyone from Grace or St. James Church? All right, St. James, great. Hi. I was just there last week, and glad to see that you guys are thinking about another rainscape. You guys have a difficult challenge currently, but I think we'll find some solutions for you. The bottom right corner is a rainscape that St. James put in, St. James Church put in back in 2018-ish? It's been quite a while. It's doing well. Yeah. And we might be expanding on that a little bit. So we'll see about that. Again, rainscapes come in different shapes and sizes. They don't have to be circles or ovals. They can look something like, the raised bed you see up here, a really creative design. Sometimes they're behind, rock walls. They can be spirals. They can make them any shape you like for interest. They can be long and linear as well. Yes, yeah, the water's coming through, exactly. Correct, yeah. So I didn't do it with this project myself, but you're right. Yep. So if I can get this to work. So yeah, the water's coming from the neighboring property. There's a difference in elevation, so we kind of cascade down. They intercepted it with this raised bed. And you can see that it kind of fills into the one, into the next, and then it discharges down at the end, slowing it down and keeping the water from flowing towards the house and redirecting it and flowing it towards the back. So you can use rain gardens and conservation landscapes to capture the water, manage it, redirect it, and then discharge it into a place that might be more desirable. So on to conservation landscapes. They kind of look the same from a distance. They are very close to just typical landscaping, garden beds, flower beds, but they are a little more intensive. You have to decompact the soil. Rain gardens, can decompact them between 12 and 36 inches. With the conservation landscaping, it's only to 9 inches, basically a shovel blade depth. And you use berms and swales to manage that. Stormwater. I've got a list of requirements on the right side there. I'm going to make this presentation available to all of you, so we don't have to go down every single one of these. And you'll see it towards, a few slides down, why we're not going to go through all the requirements in this talk. But there are some, the main easy ones are in that upper right corner, and that's also true for the rain garden. They need those things. So here are some examples of conservation landscapes. Here's a broad sort of a bioswale planted with, lots of big variety, a large variety of perennials. But the one on the right is also a conservation landscape and bioswale. It looks a lot different. They have very different functions. The one on the right, it was a very sort of a narrow space to manage this. The main function of the one on the right was to move the water through so it didn't flood the residents, and to minimize erosion. So you're not going to see a lot of pollinators and shrubs and things in here. It's lined with carex, which is a native sedge. And the carex and the sedges and rushes are probably the best for managing runoff in high velocity areas. Yeah, right. So if you have a big problem with lots of fast runoff, you're going to want to use sedges in the stream bed, in the bed of the bioswale. Once you get a sedge established, it's almost impossible to pull out because the roots are so dense. You have to shovel them out. So they're really good for that. That's what they're adapted for. We do like to, provide food and shelter for pollinators. You're not going to get a lot of food out of the sedge. Almost nothing eats them. Deer don't eat them. Squirrels, nothing eats them because they're so tough, which is why they're used. But they do actually provide habitat or shelter overwintering for like bees and wasps and things. They tuck under the foliage. So they are still important for the environment. Here are a few more examples of different forms that a conservation landscape can take. Here's another sort of maybe a lower velocity bioswale where you can actually, the water's not coming through so strong. You can control it a little bit with some rocks and just a dense perennial planting. Over here to the right, there was a problem with stormwater coming onto the patio. We can take care of that easily using a swale kind of to catch that water and carry it around before it gets onto the patio. And the bottom right corner is sort of a naturalistic look. And here are the requirements for rain gardens and conservation landscapes. They do differ a little bit. The rain garden, you need to size appropriate to the drainage area and whatnot. We're not going to go through those details here, but again, you're going to have access to this digitally. We'll email them to you if you'd like, and you can go through at your leisure. So, okay, step 2. So once you've decided what kind of project you're going to do and maybe how it's going to look, we'll do our site assessment. And the purpose of the site assessment is to determine program eligibility and provide technical analysis and maybe offer some recommendations on how to move forward. You can take our recommendations or come up with something completely different, but that doesn't matter as long as you're meeting the requirements that are stated back here. But oftentimes an applicant will come to us and they have a problem they just don't know how to solve, and we can usually find a decent solution. So during our assessment, we look at a lot of different things. Sometimes we'll go back to historical maps and imagery. I had a person who had a very long, sloping backyard. And for some reason, she had this just wet, boggy spot right in the middle of it. And it kind of just drained off down towards the back half and couldn't figure out why. So I went to the historical USGS maps, and on the left side, you can see it's that old-fashioned type of map. And on the upper corner here, you can see a blue line. It's called a blue line stream. It's a perennial stream. Sometimes you can find that, a property that's just always boggy. The neighbors aren't. On the left and the right, they're there's no problem, but for some reason that property is always wet. The first thing you want to make sure there's no broken pipes. All right, and take care of that. But once you've already gone through that process and determined, we don't know. Oftentimes, neighborhoods, streets, individual properties will be built right on top of will be built right on top of an old blue line stream. So bingo, we discovered that, and we figured, okay, this is what we can do to help mitigate that. You're not going to get around it, but you can work with it. And they came up with a pretty good sort of a wetland type, freshwater seep habitat. Then we'll go to maybe the plat map to make sure there aren't any easements on the property that would make your project ineligible. And in this, you can see the property boundaries and the heavy dark line there. And there's a lot of text, a lot of information you can derive. It's got all the property boundary links and, the bearings and everything. That is that's actually the standard for determining your property boundaries. The ones that we have in our GIS system are close, but they're not. They're for reference only. So on the right side, you'll see a light blue line kind of in that same shape. It's not the surveyed plat map boundary, so we always defer to the plat map. The plat map will show you things like, if you look at this whole boundary right here, the left side and bottom, that there's a 20-foot utility easement. So anything within that 20-foot utility easement, we cannot rebate. That would be ineligible, for example. If you look to the right at that property boundary, so you can see on the inside of that blue line, 20 feet in would be ineligible. But you might also still have another 20 or 30 feet of, what you might think is your front yard or your property between the property line and the roadway, which you can't really see. Sorry about that. So there's actually a road right off the map here, off this image, and anything within that road right of way is also ineligible. So we need to check for those things. So you might actually have, somewhere between 10 and 50 feet, depending on the size of the property and the road right of way. It's not even eligible along that property boundary. But sometimes the easements will go right through the middle. Or you can see there's a box here and a potential area here reserved for leach fields, sanitary fields. Those things are good to know. You want to avoid leach fields where your sewage waste goes to for treatment. You don't want to be doing it on top of those things typically. We'll also look at the hydrology. And the far right, you can see our flow accumulation model. We go by that quite a bit, just looking for the direction and kind of tracing the water upslope, looking for those impervious surfaces that might be draining down to your property. Once we've done all this kind of a review, sometimes we do this before, sometimes that review before or after. We will come out and take a look at the property, sort of verify what we think we saw in the maps. And here, there's a project done at the Church of the Nazarene in Gaithersburg a few years ago. And they had a pretty big problem with runoff coming from a slope. The the water kind of picked up speed coming across their parking lot, went down into their yard towards their playground and the building. So they wanted to intercept that water, detain it in the rain garden, and move it to the other side of the playground. So after that site visit, I came up with a report, and the report would look something like on the left. It's a bunch of pages of graphs and diagrams and notes and explanation. And then we determined, okay, yes, we trace the drainage area up the dotted blue line, highlighted all the impervious surface within that drainage area of the area of interest, which was this green area here. That's where they wanted the rain garden. Now, this project was sort of on the edge of eligibility just because the drainage area was so large. We typically want the impervious surface to be a little closer to the source, to be closer to the rain garden, because we don't want all that earth, soil area being washed into that rain garden, because there's always the potential for clogging it up. It won't filter, and you end up with standing water after a few years, and it becomes a mosquito problem, and that's what we try to avoid. It won't function as designed in those cases, but we decided, they need some help, and we approved that, and it seems to be functioning fairly well. So once we've sent that assessment, you can review it and come up with your plan. A planting plan doesn't have to be computer drawn, doesn't have to be fancy. Actually, I prefer kind of what you see on the screen there, just a simple, outline of the area with some key information, and you'll see in the little green call outs what we're kind of looking for. But it's easy to scale on graph paper, and it's easy to read. And to the left of the plan, there's an example of what a plant list. So you need to come up with a planting plan and a plant list. So we need to make sure that none of the plants that are on the list are invasive. You can still get lots of invasive species at Home Depot or other nurseries. So we should make sure that we catch any of those that might be in the plan and recommend alternatives. And we need to make sure that at least 75% of the plant materials by quantity and by area covered are natives. You can include your favorites and your knockout roses and whatnot, but we want the majority of it to be native landscaping. Yeah, you have a question? Yeah, right. It doesn't have to be local to your neighborhood. If you're in a hickory woodland and only certain things grow there, no, it's really native to the mid-Atlantic region, but we'll accept even some things like in the southern range or even Midwest. Actually, my favorite database to kind of check against is the Missouri Botanical Garden database. They just have all the information that I need, and there are other databases out there, but there's always something missing. So I always rely on that, and I think they keep it up to date pretty well. And they will include species that are outside, that are native to the Midwest, but they pretty much cover almost everything out here. I mean, there are a few things like some of the carex that I like the most. I think the tussock sedge and Carex plantaginea. It's not on their list. You look them up, right? Okay, it's not just me. So yeah, there are a few things that they don't have, but you'll find 99% of what you're looking for there. Okay, so once we've reviewed the plan, we've approved it. It's up to you to get it in the ground. So you install the project. Once it's finished, you contact your planner, and they'll schedule a final assessment. They have to go out just to verify that it was installed and is installed to plan. We may have given you an estimate. If it's 1,000 square feet, we'd say, okay, this project is worth, is eligible for $5,000 in rebates. So we have to make sure that, yes, it's 1,000 square feet. It's okay if it's a little more or a little less. We'll make that final adjustment. Just be aware that if you planned for 1,000, but you actually installed 800, the rebate is going to be a little less. It'll be based on what we find at the time. And then step 6, after we've done that, just make sure you've got your receipts submitted, you've signed the property owner agreement, and just wait for the check in the mail. It literally is a check that comes in the mail. And that'll take typically 6 to 8 weeks from the time of the final assessment. So it's not an instant thing. You do have to wait a little bit to get your check, but it will come. So that's the Rainscapes process. And that's really the main point of the talk, but there are some things that I just like to share that I think are very important when planning these kinds of projects. It's kind of knowing some basic concepts. There are key ecological concepts, and I'm sure you've heard of many of them that maybe, some just don't get talked about a whole lot. And one is just the amount of biomass that can potentially be planted. There are cases where, you have to put in a Carex lined bioswale. There's not a lot of biomass there. You got some species that'll make use of, the leafy material to kind of overwinter, but it kind of leaves a lot off the table. We are actually in a forest ecosystem. Everything wants to be a forest. I have a clearing in my backyard. It used to be all lawn. I've converted it to meadow, but I struggle to keep it from becoming a forest again because I get a bazillion maple saplings and, poplar saplings and oaks, and the squirrels are burying, black walnuts everywhere, including the pots on my deck. So you're battling that, and that's what it wants to. It's really what every inch of this place wants to be, outside some exceptional places. So if we can, find room for a tree or shrubs, we should plant the woody things. And the woody things, especially the trees, are the closest thing to real infrastructure. We consider all of Rainscape's infrastructure, but it's infrastructure. It's self-maintaining. It improves over time, unlike every other piece of infrastructure we put in. And once they get going, there's just no maintenance. That's a big problem with the conservation landscapes that are heavily dependent on the perennials and grasses, is that because it wants to be a forest, no matter what you do or where you plant it, you're going to have constant maintenance, keeping the bigger things out. And there's also just a ton of invasives. They're everywhere. So you just have to be aware that maintenance is going to be probably your biggest challenge over time. And I'll get a little bit more into that later. But I had some numbers. I asked ChatGPT and Grok, and it kind of it sort of jived with some of my personal experience as a regulator, regulating and monitoring mitigation projects, that the Midwest or the Mid-Atlantic forests, they have 35 to 40 times greater dry standing matter than, say, a perennial landscape, a meadow landscape. You got all this structure, all this wood, all this light, all this carbon sequestration. You've got 80 to 100 vertical feet of habitat up and down. And every June, July, I had this fantastic firefly display in my backyard, where I got my meadow and my trees way in the back, and you can see they're twinkling at the treetops. And it's not just the fireflies; it's there's just hundreds of different species of bugs, and we see the birds and the squirrels kind of floating around up there, but it's the insects too. That's all. There's so much volume, so much structure there with trees. So if you can, put in a tree. Again, you can call Tree Montgomery. They'll come out and do that for you. So a forest, and what is it? Yeah, the native forest has about 225,000 pounds of dry standing matter per acre versus 6,000 pounds for a meadow or grassland. So that's there's just no comparison. But that said, there's diversity. There are lots of different kinds of pollinators and whatnot that the perennials and grasses actually do support. So we do want a combination of the two. Keystone species. I'm sure you've all heard of that term. What a keystone species is. It's a species that has more disproportionately more I guess influence on an ecology than others. These include the oaks and the black cherries, willows, birch, pines, spicebush, viburnums, blueberries, goldenrods, asters, sunflowers, and milkweeds. Now, there are particular species, but they're literally entire genera that are kind of keystone. The sunflowers, the helianthus, and really when you look at it, goldenrods, asters, sunflowers, they're all in the Asteraceae family. So that one particular family is very important. A lot of the wildlife and abundance kind of hinges on that group of plants. So keystone species are very important, and you should be looking for some of those to put in your design. And so I have a couple of other concepts here that you probably will rarely hear, but I think are very important. So I have the heading single large or several small, and I've had this question actually come up. I only have budget for 1,000 square feet of garden. Should I just put it all in this spot, or should I kind of sprinkle it around, several 250 square foot gardens? Well, there's this thing called the theory of island biogeography, and there was a big debate back in the 80s about what's better, making a whole bunch of small ones that kind of chain habitat together, or just a really big one. And it turns out that it's really the big ones that are more impactful. The sustainability, the number of species, and the abundance goes up exponentially with area. So because you have these edges, you have a bigger area, you have more interior space, just more dynamics going on within them. And you can look up the theory of island biogeography. You can Google that, and you'll find all about it. There are people who disagree, and a lot of times you really don't even have a choice. You just you've got a budget, but you don't have enough area for one big project. But if you have the choice, it's better to make one big area, because you're really creating these islands of habitat in the city, in the neighborhood, in the suburbs. An island of habitat within a giant lawn. Something else to think about is mass planting. There's a lot said about diversity, and I didn't include diversity here because I didn't want any confusion, but diversity is very important. But massings are actually more beneficial if you look out in the ecology, the landscape. A landscape ecologist, to zoom out, look at the landscape as a whole, and you'll see, is that better? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Sorry if I'm coming in and out. This thing is touchy. We got going. Okay, sorry. I could go on for hours on this one slide, but mass planting, so landscapes are patchy, right? That's kind of like the technical term in landscape ecology. They're patchy. And you have these homogeneous stands of plants, right? And there are species that have adapted to that. They've evolved to, live among these patches, and they depend on that certain amount of, food and fuel and shelter. If you break that up into too small of a component, they might be attracted to it, but then they don't really they can't sustain themselves within a small patch. You need a bigger patch. Okay, kind of gets back to the single large or small, several small. And then we go down to the source of your sink. I never hear about this being talked about, but sources are places where you will actually can grow a population. Okay, we're all trying to make population sources, but there are also sinks. You can create an attractive nuisance. You can put the best habitat, the most beautiful rain garden in the middle of a roadway median, really busy boulevard, beautiful habitat, but it's going to be a population sink. That's an extreme example, but critters trying to get to and from that are going to get smashed. They're if you have neighbors with bug zappers, you don't want to put your project on that side of the house. Put it on the other side. If you have a street light in front of your house, there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe you want to put your project in the backyard away from the street light, because we track the moths and they get, sidetracked into the light and they burn themselves out. So there are things like that. I'm not going to be able to get into all these details, but you can go online and dig into these things yourself. Succession's another thing. It's a really important thing, but I think I'm running out of time. Sorry, Naomi. Here's some example of biomass. Compare the left. The left is beautiful. Leave that, through the winter. If you have a meadow planted in your yard, don't cut it down. Don't deadhead it. The bugs really need that habitat. But look at the right side. That's just a little snippet, of forest biomass. And that there's no comparison. And as much as you see above ground, there's an equal amount below ground. And if you ever read The Secret Life of Trees, that'll just open your mind. Trees have a way of communicating, cultivating the soil ecology, what kind of microorganisms they want in there. They can move nutrients from one side of a area to pass along trees to the other side. It's just amazing. Read that book. And then I was keystone species. You're going to have to look this up. Pollinators.
In your packet on the keystone species for the Mid-Atlantic.
And then the last thing is a key design concepts. We're not going to be able to go through this. I'm not the best designer anyway. I did do pretty well with restoration design in my former life, but so you can go through these concepts. These are really important. People are important. You want people to be attracted to the things that you do. So here are some things to kind of to think about as you're planning and designing. So we got resources on rainscapes.org, all these things. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this. And I'm not sure if we have time for question and answers now. Well, we're going to need a mic person to go out in the audience.
All right. Well, first, let's just say thank you to Paul. This mic might be a little better, actually, right? It's much better. I wonder if it's let's try switching. Hello? Oh.
Well, actually,
no.
Actually, you want the good mic out there, because I have really bad hearing. So
okay.
So
I just want to say thank you. That was really helpful. We're going to hear from Chesapeake Bay Trust in a minute about another grant, but we're going to spend up to 45 minutes to an hour working on your garden plan. And that's why Paul and the other DEP people are here. So you're all going to walk. He gave you an overview, and then you're going to have a work session here. I didn't explain that clearly in the agenda. But does anybody have any questions? So we're going to come around to each table. We're going to answer a lot of that during that time too. But would anybody have any questions immediately? Okay.
So we installed a rain garden 10 or 15 years ago. Do any of the organizations here offer help in sort of assessing what it looks like now, what kind of maintenance we might be doing, or?
If you have a project installed, actually as part of the agreement, Rainscapes will come, or Montgomery County, DEP, will come by it's supposed to be every 3 years. We've got so many projects on the ground now that we can't necessarily keep up with that. The main purpose is to make sure that it's there and it's functioning. And if that's the case, it gets checked off, and you'll come back 3 years later. We don't have a whole lot of feedback in that process, but once you've installed a Rainscape, you're a Rainscaper for life. We're a resource. If you've got a problem, you can always contact us, and if you've got a particular problem, we'll help you figure it out. And if we can't figure it out, there's lots of resources. There's the University Extension. So yeah, and if you've got a problem, email me afterwards, and I'll yeah.
Okay,
We'll work
that's
on that.
great. That's a great offer. Thank you.
This is just a quick question about, this is Pam Mattis from Poolsville Presbyterian. You came over and,
oh, hi. Yeah,
we've drawn
great.
something up. But anyway, the last couple of, you were pressed for time. Where's the information on the last couple of slides?
Where's the information on the last couple of slides? Well, what we'll do is we'll make this entire presentation available.
Okay, great.
And you'll be able to tab down through through those slides. Yeah, I really wish I could have gotten into the very last one.
Yeah, that was
design
juicy
principles.
stuff. Yeah. Okay.
If we have time, we can come back to it. Let's see
Okay.
how things go.
Yeah, we got a loaded schedule though. Not a lot.
Thank you.
And I think the DP, the Rainscape staff are
Yeah.
available to follow up with you too. So that's great. You already had them come out.
We have a question right here.
Thank you. We have a property that already has a large swath of it designated as a drainage easement by the county. And then we have a little thin strip that's a county-owned drainage easement next to our house. Neither one of them has anything done with it other than being designated as a drainage easement. And I can see where the water draining off of our driveway, which is on a tremendous slope and it's 500 feet long, the driveway, is creating little gullies down through the woods leading to where the drainage easement is. So would the drainage easement itself also be disqualified because it's an easement, or because it's a drainage easement? Would that even make it more qualified for getting, one of the grants?
Yeah.
Or
So technically
rebates?
speaking, the drainage easements are not rebatable. We can't, because there might be a pipe under that drainage easement. There's no storm drain pipe or anything. Okay. So they're probably leaving that easement open for completing a storm drain system extension or whatever. They may come through sometime in the future, and yeah. Okay. Well, we could take a look at the plat map and determine, where it is. But we can't rebate in those areas, but you are allowed to plant them up. You can use them as lawn in gardening. Right. Yeah.
Scout troop, and the White Oak Library is going to give them a bigger spot actually to plant. Are they, because it's already county property, is that ineligible for rain? I'm wondering if they should go through the process or not.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Probably not,
county-owned
right?
properties are not eligible. This is made for private properties.
Yeah. That's what I figured. And then one more. I'm actually in a townhouse, but we have a big problem in our whole area.
Mhm.
Do groups of addresses, can they apply for grants? What's that? Yeah, is that how it would work, or could I
Yeah. So you
apply-
guys have a. Go ahead.
just could I do it individually, but for the whole strip of land if the HOA is on board, or what's the best way to get that accomplished if it's eligible?
Sure. Yeah, it depends. Depends on the particular circumstance. If the problem is in the common area of an HOA, the HOA would have to apply. It would be to have its own parcel, basically. Sometimes it's one parcel for the entire complex. Sometimes it's broken up into several. The board would have to be on board with that, and they could apply, or you could even apply for them, as long as the signatories who are going to have to sign off on the agreement are willing to do that, sign off on it. Or you can actually do it individually, or just get together with a bunch of neighbors. Sometimes it's even off. Sometimes the problem is not even on the the common area. It's within just a few individual parcels.
No, the HOA would apply, right?
Well, the HOA would apply for the common area. Each individual person would have to apply for their particular parcel. And then you can come up with one complete plan, all working together. But the checks would come separately. It would be, yeah.
Okay, wow, these are very good questions, actually. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you again, Paul. Paul will come back up and others when we go through the worksheet piece. So now I'd like to introduce Annabelle with the Chesapeake Bay Trust. Chesapeake Bay Trust is funded, you know those license plates with the crab and Save the Bay type of thing? Those, whenever you buy one of those special license plates, you are paying into a fund that goes back to the Chesapeake Bay Trust. So it's sort of like, it's an optional, it's not a tax because you don't have, it's optional. And maybe you get funding from other things too, but at least you do. So I know, well, through Montgomery County and all the, in fact, that's who's funded. Let me just say thank you, because that's the funding for this workshop, and the whole Sacred Grounds program has been through Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection, who provided Chesapeake Bay Trust funding, who then provided us a grant. So thank you both. But Annabelle will share some other grant opportunities. So these are a part, you can't do both, I believe. You have to do, but she's going to tell you about some opportunities, which might, I don't know if it fits in under the white oak or not, but there's another way to get free plants, which I can also tell you about later. So there's a lot of options. We live really in one of the best areas in the whole country to tap into this. It's really been a, you know, Ann English started the program, and she's really had a lot of foresight and is a tremendous asset to all of us. So Annabelle, come on up. Thank you, Paul, and you'll see Paul more in a minute. And oh, sure. Yeah, good idea. Well, I could do it.
Hello, everyone. As Naomi mentioned, my name is Annabelle Caudry. I am a program assistant for the Chesapeake Bay Trust, and today I'm going to be sharing about two of our grant programs, a larger one, which is the Clean Water Montgomery Grant Program, and then a mini grant program, which is the one that I manage, which is the Community Engagement and Restoration Mini Grant Program. And it's one that I think would be eligible for the Girl Scouts project if you guys are interested in attaining funding through that program. Just a little bit of background on the trust. We're a nonprofit grant-making organization created in 1985 by the Maryland General Assembly. We support funding for K through 12 environmental education, on-the-ground restoration work, community engagement, and then also the science that supports those three pillars. Okay. So the first grant program that I'm going to share about is the Clean Water Montgomery Grant Program, and this is funded by Montgomery County DEP and then administered by the trust. This program aims to promote initiatives and projects which improve water quality across Montgomery County's local streams and waterways, and they do this through public engagement, education, and then on-the-ground restoration. So this program is split into 4 tracks, and when you apply, you indicate which track you're applying for, and the application materials differ per track. So the first one is public outreach and stewardship. Second track is community-based restoration implementation. The third track is water quality monitoring, and then finally litter reduction in the Anacostia River watershed. This grant program is currently closed, but we're expecting it to open by mid-August. I recommend you just checking back on our webpage, which you can scan the QR code on the slide. It'll take you to the webpage for this grant program. Yeah, and just check back mid-August because that's when we expect it to open. And this program funds generally between 25 to 100,000 depending on the track. Larger requests are possible. I just recommend reaching out to the program manager, which is Megan Andreasen, and her email is on the slides, but can also be found on the webpage. The eligible applicants are limited to registered 501c3 nonprofit organizations, and there's some examples listed on the slide. But then if your organization is not or doesn't have a current 501c status, a fiscal sponsor can apply and secure funds on your behalf. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to Megan or myself, and we'd be happy to explain more. Okay, so that's all I have for the Clean Water Montgomery grant program. And then the next program that I'm going to talk about is the one that I manage. This is the Community Engagement and Restoration Mini Grant Program. And I do have some flyers that I can pass around if you guys are interested. I'll be going through what's on the flyer, but you can take one and pass it. Okay, so this is a much smaller program than the one that I just previously discussed in terms of funding. It only funds up to $5,000 per project, and it is designed to support activities that enhance communities, engage residents, and improve natural resources. So we fund a very wide range of projects, and I'll get into a couple examples on the next slide. But this program is currently open, and applications are accepted on a rolling deadline until funds are exhausted for the fiscal year. Our fiscal year just started July 1st, so we don't expect funds to be exhausted until 2027. But yeah, I definitely would recommend applying sooner rather than later since it is rolling. And then eligible locations are all of Maryland, and then the Chesapeake Bay watershed portion of West Virginia. My contact information is on the side, but then also on the flyers that are being passed around. So some sample eligible applicant types include nonprofits, community associations, homeowner associations, service, youth, and civic groups, faith-based organizations, municipalities, county, regional, state, federal, and public agencies. So it's a much wider range or wider pool of eligible applicants compared to the last program that I just talked about. And then some projects that we have funded in the past include community gardens, litter cleanups, field trips, workshops, such as this workshop, trainings, water quality monitoring, rain garden installations. It really is like a wide range of projects can apply. And we really work with the applicants to create fundable projects. So if you guys are interested in applying and just want to learn more about what would be required, in terms of what materials you would have to submit in your application, please feel free to reach out to me, and we can set up a meeting to discuss the project and create a project that would be fundable for this mini grant program. And then I know Paul kind of briefly touched on maintenance, and I do want to mention that the trust has a new grant program. It's Maintenance Small Grants is the name of it, and it funds maintenance for up to $500. So that is a program that you could apply to if, let's say, you installed one of the rainscapes, conservation landscaping, or a rain garden, and you're looking for funds to maintain that project after the project's been implemented, then you can apply to the Maintenance Small Grant Program and get up to $500 for that. Okay, I went through that kind of quickly. So are there any questions? Yes. Okay.
Mom Center got one of those $5,000 grants. That just we helped a few congregations do that, so it's a great chance to get $5,000. Amazing.
So I live in the neighborhood here, which is Woodside, and I actually live across the street from what may in my lifetime be the Capitol Crescent Trail. And they destroyed a forest that was there.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's just one big dirt mess, which has rainwater eating away at the street. Is this something that we can do in terms of beautifying the area once they have I'm assuming we have to wait until they finish.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on who the landowner is and if
It
they.
would be the county, I would imagine.
Yeah, so. Yes, but we would require like a letter of landowner permission for any projects done there. So if permission is gained for that, then yeah, it would be something fundable through the mini grant program for sure.
I think there's probably we should find out there must be a restoration plan as part of.
Yeah.
What? Not big. Okay.
No.
I noticed that on your screen you said that field trips and litter cleanup and trainings
Yes.
were possibilities. Could you give us a few examples of where the field trips or the trainings or the litter cleanup might be?
Yeah. So a recent project that we just funded was an organization who was engaging youth to do 8 litter cleanups across Baltimore County. So that's one that is definitely like an example of litter cleanups. Workshops can be anything related to like educating youth or others about environmental topics. Yeah, field trip could be, as long as it has some kind of educational component that relates to the mission of the trust, that relates to like improving water quality and natural resources, then field trips are also definitely fundable. It's like a wide range of projects that are eligible for this.
We also helped another mosque in Laurel. This was their idea, but we worked with them. They put a little bit of money in for us, actually, National Wildlife Federation. We helped them organize it. They hired a bus and they went to a native plant nursery, and just like this idea that we're going to do today, and they gave everyone like a $25 voucher, and they also bought plants to give away. So they did a field trip to a native plant nursery and to show people where to go. And we've done field trips where we take boat rides or native plant garden tours and things like that. There's a lot of we'd be happy to brainstorm with you too on a lot of the ideas we've seen work.
I think a lot of our churches, at least, are trying to attract youth. And so we want some kind of a project that is going to attract youth, get them involved.
Yes, and a lot of people are really interested in gardening now, and indigenous and native plant gardening. So that is a great idea. So, but again, we're happy to brainstorm with you.
Not a question, but again, my name's Matt. I'm with the Rainscapes program, and if you could go back to the slide prior with the Clean Water Montgomery grant. So I work on the Rainscapes program, which, as we talked about earlier, can provide up to $20,000 per parcel, but that is a rebate in style, so you get the money at the end. I'm also on the review committee for this Clean Water Montgomery grant, and this is upfront, right? This is up to $100,000 upfront. So these projects that people can apply for Rainscapes and for the Clean Water Montgomery program, the projects are virtually the same. These tend to be just a lot larger in scale. So something to keep in mind when you're thinking about, designing later today is this something that we would probably have to apply for the grant for, or is this something smaller that we may be able to use the Rainscapes program for? Because the Rainscapes program is typically faster, it's a little bit more flexible. The grant program, of course, you get the money up front, but it is a little bit longer. You know, there's some more, you know, it's a grant. Just wanted to share that comment.
Thank you.
Yeah, the grants we have applied, they are, what should we say? They have a lot of work. I mean, they're not just like straightforward. The $5,000 grant is very simple. And
Yes.
we actually have some things we could help you with that, like former grants we've applied for. You can take a look at it. But the bigger ones are a lot of work. Let me just say that. They're great, but you know, you have to be prepared to put in the effort.
Yeah, the mini grant program is designed for newer applicants to just give them experience like applying for a grant and then managing a grant. Just so then when you go in to apply to, like, for example, this grant program that's a little bit larger and more demanding, you are more confident and have more experience. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of support with the mini grant program. So yeah, if you guys are interested, just want to like bounce ideas around, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to work with you to create an application and a fundable project.
Right. And nobody here is from Gaithersburg, right? Because we're in the middle of a Gaithersburg project. Right. Okay. Because see, you can remember if you're in Gaithersburg, Rockville, or Tacoma Park, you're not, if your congregation is located in there, you're not eligible.
Yeah,
So-
Gaithersburg has a separate
separate program.
Rainscapes.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're all right. So thank you, Annabelle. Thank you very much. That's
Thank
I really
you.
it's a tremendous opportunity and resource. So now we're gonna take a break. We're gonna go and look at the garden, and we're gonna ask Wadi to share with us. She's the head of the green team, Sacred Grounds team for the IMAAM Center, and she's been a long time leader of this program. She's one of the congregations we started with in our original cohorts, and they've done a lot of really good work. She has a sizable green team to help her. You want a lot of help, and so she's going to show us the two gardens, and those others of us, Kit Gage and the DEP staff, can help you identify what some of the plants are, and we'll show you some of the signs they put in to make sure their members know why they're doing this. And then we're going to, and they have also, the IMAAM Center's provided, you all got the food, the Indonesian snacks, and there's also a lot of fruit in the back, and there's bathrooms where Jaffer just went. There's bathrooms through there. At least the women's room is to the left. I'm not sure where the men's room is. The other direction, straight ahead. And the women's is back left. So, the garden is just literally at the right 2 minutes away in the parking lot. So we'll go to the sun one first, and then go to the newer shade one, and then we'll go. All right. So thank you all. It's a chance. All right. So we'll head out. So we'll just be out there for 15 minutes or something, and then we'll come back and we'll go to work on your congregation or your home garden. And Paul made maps of all of your properties, and we have all kinds of resources. So this will be a working session. Okay. Thank you all for listening so far. Weeding. Yeah, the maintenance. They've done a beautiful job here. you want to grab some fruit and come back, we have just a little bit, about an hour and 10 minutes, and then don't forget, if you leave before the time is up, you get some free plants to take home. All right, so let me tell you, we have shade, we have the sedge, we don't usually give out, but it's a good plant to understand, it's a great plant for shady areas, like you said, sort of a lawn alternative. It's also, it's not showy, but it covers the ground, so it helps with up to the weeds. And so, and also, I'll tell you, it's very hard to get plants at this time of year. It's like, where's this little window? When I went to look for what was available, I was like, wow, hardly anything. That's crazy.
That's typical, because
Yeah.
you're not going to plant things
Nobody-
now, 'cause
nobody-
it's a bad time to plant.
Oh, it's not the best time, but I mean.
Right.
Take
So
care.
we have the sturgeon, so the sedge, and then we have the another plant called
Isn't that Rebecca?
sunflower.
I said that was a Muslim sedge out there, the one that the children saw. It's the Pennsylvania sedge. Here is looks more like grass, more like a lot of the other sedges. I don't see it really like grass. A lot of some of the other sedges are wider.
I read previously all this grab one of my labs. So he and I spoke. I'm gonna get this. I had signed up earlier, so I could actually benefit from this. But anyway, I'll be in touch. I just took on a whole new portfolio for building, not the ground, at church. The guy that was formerly in charge of the ground. The man that gets hopefully some of this stuff. I did. Yep.
Okay, so everybody here, take your congregation. Anybody not get their back? Gave you next to the agenda. You look at the agenda, the second you turn it on its back side, there's a few pages of a worksheet. The idea here was to help you think about what you want to do on your grounds. There's no turning it back into us or anything like that. It's for you. And if you look at it, it just helps you to start planning. So we have 3 DEP people here, right? Darlene, Matt, and Paul. and we have Kit. So we have 4 experts who have all know how to do this, and they're going to go to each of your tables and help you. So the worksheet is just a way to, you don't have to fill out all of it. It's just, again, a way to help you think about what you want. You want to think about location. These maps help you. You want to think about the best location, and you want to think about your plant list and your size. All right? These are the things. And you can ask for help anytime you want. So here's Darlene. Matt's already at a table. Kit's right here. Ooh, I can try to help. I'm not a garden expert, okay? Would you like help? Paul? Great. Great. All right. So you're both with St. James. All right. Would you like help? Great. Oh, that's fantastic.
It's supposed to be, skill.
Oh, and then, oh, really? Is she away at summer camp, maybe? Does it have a planting plan? So she's supposed to do it. So there's no plant list. Oh, look. So, right. And if you're doing this, you should contact Paul. It sounds like Paul's already come out to a bunch of your congregations. But that is amazing, having Paul come out. Do you do that too, Matt? I don't know if you do. So they come out and really, really help you. That is the most important thing to do after today, if you haven't done that.
So I'm going to try to explain to them.
Great. So while you're looking at it, Paul's going to talk to you about some of it. All right? And I
Okay,
think
so yeah. Okay. Yeah, so the Rainscapes team will be around to kind of help you guys with particular questions but what I should do first is try to explain the thought behind the materials here. So you should find a base map, 11 by 17 base map printed for each of the congregations. Some of the congregations, the properties are really big. So I tried to fit them all into one image, but that made all the little buildings and potential spaces too small to really design. So then some of them, for those properties, I made a second print, zoomed in on the areas around the buildings that I thought you might be interested in a Rainscape. So this is your base map, and you're gonna lay that down. And then there is vellum. So you can either draw straight onto your base map if you'd like. It's hard to see though, because it's in color, and you might not want to kind of scribble on it and ruin it. You might want to frame it. It looks kind of nice. So you can put this vellum on top. It's like tracing paper. You can see through it, and you can trace the areas that you're interested in onto that. Now, each one is scaled, and you'll see that in the bottom right corner. I tried to get them down to 1 to 480 scale, which is 1 inch equals 40 feet. And even that is a pretty small scale, meaning when you look at it, things look really small. But you can at least measure at that scale. A lot of the maps are even larger than that. So those are for reference. So look for the ones that are 1 to 48 or 480 or smaller, like 1 to 360. There's a few that actually fit on that size. And I'll use those to kind of trace out the areas that you might be interested in putting a conservation landscape. And once you've done that, there's pencil and paper. Once you've done that, you can measure those areas and then transfer those measurements onto graph paper. So this is a bit of a process. And if you haven't done it before, it's It can be kind of confusing, and you might need a little more time to think about it. But that's scaling a drawing is sort of the biggest hurdle for do-it-yourselfers to put a thing on in plan. Another good resource is Google Earth. You can go to Google Earth. You can measure things. You can even draw things around. But it's hard to get those images printed to a scale that's actually usable. So you can get an idea of what you want to do, and everything could be digitally on your screen. But when it comes to printing a plan, you really have to get it onto grid paper if you're going to get it scaled. And there's a stack of grid paper over there as well. So if you want to just kind of go through the process that Rainscapes goes through, look at the areas that you are familiar with at your congregation, at the property. Look for where those blue and green lines go. That's the sort of the hydraulic analysis. That's the flow accumulation model overlaying. And see if upstream from the area that you're interested in has an impervious surface, like a parking lot or a building. You're not going to see downspouts coming off of the roofs in these printouts, but you should be familiar enough to know kind of where they might be on your building. And if not, it's not a big deal. The next time you're visiting there, just walk around and make a note. You can actually make a note on your base map where those downspouts are. And that's what we'll be looking for to determine eligibility of the site that you choose. So yeah, just spend some time getting familiar with the layout. You can see there's contour lines. They give you the sort of the topography. You can kind of visualize which way things are going. The flow accumulation model reinforces that as well. And that model isn't 100%. It'll go through buildings and stuff. Depends on when the structures were built in relation to when the model, digital elevation model, was actually established. So if that model is established in 1990 and that's what we're using, and you built a building in 95, it'll just go right through that modeling. So I'll just let you guys do that. Get familiar with your base map, and raise your hand if you have any questions and would like someone to come over and help you.
I think I lost it.